There is a version of you who stopped letting the world speak to her first thing in the morning. And truly, that changed so many things in her life. Not overnight, not magically in one morning, slowly over time, because she realized something most people never notice, that the first few minutes after you wake up, your mind is still open. It's soft. It's unprotected. It's listening. And most people spend those minutes handing themselves over to the stress of the day before they've even fully woken up. The phone, the notifications, the unfinished conversations like texts, the pressure, the noise. And before they've even gotten out of bed, their nervous system is already thinking it's in danger. Your future self learned to stop doing that. She learned that mornings were never really about productivity. They were more about identity, about remembering who she was before the world started asking her to become 10 different people or 10 different versions of herself. So, before we go any further, just take one slow breath. Just breathe like someone who doesn't need to rush into survival mode today. Just breathe. That's it. And notice what your mind did this morning. What was the very first thought? Was it pressure? Maybe it was anxiety. Maybe it was already trying to calculate the entire day before your feet even touched the floor. And that's okay. You're not doing anything wrong. Your mind learned to wake up bracing itself. A lot of people's minds do that, practically all of us. But your future self wants to show you something different now. You don't have to begin the day already abandoned by yourself. You don't have to wake up and immediately disappear into everyone else's needs, wants, desires, schedules. You are allowed to arrive in your own life first. That's what this morning is about. Not becoming someone new, coming back to yourself before the noise pulls you away again. Because the truth is, the strongest version of you was never the most productive one, or the most perfect one, or the one who had everything figured out. It was the version of you who stayed connected to herself while life was happening. That's the version that your future self became. And she wants to help you become her a little bit sooner. So don't treat this like a performance. You don't need to do affirmations correctly. You just need to listen. Let the words settle in where they need to settle in. And if something in you softens even a little bit, that's enough. You are not behind in your life, even if it feels like everyone else figured something else out before you did. Even if your timeline looks different than what you imagined. Even if part of you still feels like you should be further along by now. You are not behind. You are becoming someone, and that process takes time. Your future self knows that now. She stopped measuring her life by speed. She started measuring it by alignment. Alignment with herself, with peace, by honesty, by how connected she felt to her own soul at the end of the day. And strangely enough, that's when things finally started moving. Not when she panicked harder, not when she forced everything, not when she tried to control every single outcome. Things started changing when she stopped treating herself like a problem that needed to be fixed. So let yourself hear this today. You are not a problem to solve. You are a person to care for. a person to listen to, a person who has carried more than most people realize, and still kept going. There is strength in you that doesn't need to scream to be real. There is wisdom in you that already knows what no longer belongs in your life. There is a version of you that is no longer willing to shrink just to keep other people comfortable. And she's closer than you think. You do not need to have the entire future figured out. You just need to stay connected to yourself long enough to take the next honest step. That's it. Your future self stopped overwhelming herself with forever. She learned to focus on what feels true today, what feels healthy today, what feels peaceful today. And little by little, those small moments built a completely different life. You are allowed to trust your own timing. You are allowed to outgrow people, to outgrow old identities, to outgrow old fears and old anxieties. You are allowed to become someone new without needing permission from the version of you that was built in survival mode. And I think part of you already knows that. I think part of you can feel that your life is trying to change, not because everything is falling apart, but because you can no longer stay disconnected from yourself and still feel okay. That's not failure. That's awakening. That's your future self pulling you closer. So this morning, you don't need to rush. You don't need to prove your worth before noon. You do not need to earn rest by exhausting yourself first. You do not need to carry the emotional weight of the entire world before breakfast. You are allowed to move slowly enough to actually hear yourself again. And the more connected you become to yourself, the more magnetic you naturally become. Not because you're trying to attract people, but because people can feel when someone is finally being real, being authentic. Your future self stopped chasing validation everywhere. She stopped trying to convince people to see her value. And ironically, that's when people finally did. Because she stopped abandoning herself. That changes your energy more than anything else ever will. So let yourself remember this today. You do not need to force what is meant for you. Gosh, that's a good one. You do not need to force what is meant for you. You do not need to obsess over every outcome. You do not need to grip your future so tightly that you forget how to live your actual life. Some things are already unfolding. Some things are already quietly moving toward you, even if you can't see them. Your future self knows this because she already lived through the part you're afraid of. And you survived it. She survived it. More than that, you became wiser through it. Softer in the right ways, stronger in the right ways, more honest, more grounded, more yourself. And I know sometimes you worry that healing means becoming emotionally numb. But your future self wants you to know that isn't true. Healing actually made her feel more alive, more connected, more open, and more present. Because she stopped spending all of her energy trying to protect herself from life. She finally let herself live it. So before this morning continues, decide that today you are not going to spend the entire day at war with yourself. Decide that today you will speak to yourself a little bit softer. Decide that today you will stop treating your own nervous system like an inconvenience. Decide that today you deserve the same kindness that you give everybody else. And if the day gets heavy later, come back to this version of yourself, the quiet one, honest one, the version of you that existed for a few moments this morning before the world got so loud again. Because she is real. and she is becoming stronger. Every single day you return to her, that's what your future self learned. Transformation didn't happen all at once. It happened every morning that she chose not to abandon herself again. Every morning she paused, she breathed, she listened, she returned, until one day being connected to herself became more natural than being disconnected from herself. And that's what changed her entire life. So as you move through today, move like someone whose future is not against her. Move like someone whose life is still unfolding. Move like someone who no longer needs fear to feel prepared. And if you forget any of this later, that's okay too. Tomorrow morning will still be waiting for you. Another quiet window, another chance to return to yourself first before the world gets there. And one day, without even realizing it, is when it will happen. You'll become the future self who used to feel so far away, the one that's speaking to you right now. Until next time, stay magnetic, friends.